Well, I think that, to coin a phrase, honesty is always the best policy, and that trying to conceal a government's misdeeds is worse than just admitting it and even saying that you will never do it again or that it was a mistake. Why not admit that you've made a mistake, and that certainly in the Cold War both sides supported violent groups that use methods that we would now call terrorism. And the old aphorism, well, one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter, is meaningless in my view. I don't care what goal a group is fighting for. Terrorism is a method. If they're using terrorism, they're using terrorism. I tend not to use the term terrorist group or terrorist organization. I'd rather use terrorism as a method used by different groups. So it can be a national liberation group, it can be a far-right group, it can be a religious group, it can have any purpose, but if it engages in actions that I would call terrorism, then it's using terrorism. One can be blunt about that. I once gave a talk in the former Yugoslavia, and I announced that the partisans during the war had used some methods that I would call terrorism. I at least got out of the talk alive. That was the good part of it, but nobody wants to be accused of having used terrorism as a method, because of course the term does have an extremely negative connotation, to say the least. However, it has commonly been used. It's an old phenomenon. However, one thing you'll find, particularly in the United States, but to a certain extent in Europe, is a post-9/11 view that the terrorism we see now is entirely new and different. It has nothing to do with the terrorism of the past. Therefore, we don't need knowledge of past terrorism. We don't need to talk about it. Indeed, it would be harmful to use it as a precedent, because what we have now is entirely different. Therefore, before 9/11, we have a blank slate. I, of course, think that that is a faulty way of looking at things, that there are lessons of history that are extremely important. But that view is prevalent, and it's often held in U.S. government circles.